Hello, welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Dharma Gathering. My name is Sheena. Tonight's session, Sustaining Resilience, Mindfulness, Pacing, and Crazy Wisdom for the Long Haul, will be led by Karen Brown. Karen will lead us through a guided meditation, a Dharma talk, and we will close out the night with a Q&A session. Tonight's session will be recorded, so if you'd prefer not to be seen, please turn off your camera feature. And please note that you will also be recorded when asking a question. If you have a question during the guided instruction or the talk, please feel free to enter it into the chat box at any time, and we'll go ahead and address any questions during the discussion period. The recording of tonight's gathering can be accessed within 48 hours via your purchased products on your Vimeo Weekly Dharma Gathering account. You will receive an email notification once it's posted. Karen R. Brown is a somatically oriented psychotherapist who specializes in working with high intensity stress through body oriented and resource building pathways. Her subspecialty is training caregivers and first responders in self-care skills and the amelioration of secondary traumatic stress. She has participated in several disaster response efforts and understands the profound importance of restoring us to our own embodiment as a fundamental dimension of the healing process. Karen is a longtime student of the Dharma and maintains a private practice in New York City. Karen, welcome. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome. So I'm going to lead us through a short mindfulness meditation. And then quickly after that, give a kind of introduction to how I'm thinking about sustaining resilience specific to this time. And then we'll do some body-oriented skills as well. So get comfortable in your seat, get comfortable wherever you are. Find your seat and do anything. I invite you to do anything that you need to do to be more comfortable, because when we're more comfortable, we also create a greater invitation for our own presence. So finding your seat, and you can have eyes open or eyes closed. However you choose, have soft eyes, a soft gaze, soft closing of eyes. And just take a moment to focus on your inhale and your exhale. Easy. You don't have to change a thing. So breathing in and breathing out. And now you may start to get interested in or curious about the movement of your breath. Your breath is going into the container of your body. And we can feel the breath go in and out. So take time to feel the movement of your breath. Wherever you feel it, you might feel it more in your nostrils, or you might feel it more in your belly. You might feel it more in your chest. You might feel it in your back. And just softening any sense of should. And as you notice your breath, notice what else you're aware of. What other sensations you might be aware of. You might just be aware of the weight of your body on the chair or on your bed. You might be aware of your feet touching the ground. You might be aware of whatever support you have behind you. You might be aware of how fast your mind is moving in this moment. Just making room for all awarenesses as they come and go, as they rise and fall. Making a practice of welcoming whatever arises. Noticing whatever we notice with a gentle awareness, a soft, receptive awareness. I've heard many wise teachers say that just to be introduced to awareness, to the Dharma in a lifetime is a great good fortune. So if we just hold ourselves with that kind of tenderness, no perfection. And then let's just sit for a few moments together in stillness, just allowing ourselves to gather our attention and settle even more. letting your body feel the ground, letting the ground feel your body. Inviting our mind to settle below the neck, gently settling like sand in a glass of water, or the flakes in a snow globe slowly settle down. Towards the earth. I like to think of gravity as the embrace of the earth. And I don't have a gong, but I'm going to ring the gong, gong, to bring our meditation, this part of our mindfulness practice, to an end just for now. And welcome to anybody who joined in the meantime. So, as a body-centered therapist and a student of the Dharma, I'm very aware of the power of mindfulness as a fundamental way to return to ourselves and to a focus on the here and now. We use mindfulness of thought, feeling, body sensations, and in body-centered therapy, we also use body experience as a pathway to building resource that has the potential to stabilize our emotions and our mind. And I was really thinking about, and so resource and resilience have a deep relationship. So I think about resilience in its simplest form, let me get a prop, as our ability to come back to our centers when we've been thrown off balance, right? So when those little sand blow up things with sand in the bottom that kids used to push over like fight, and they would bounce right back up. That's a beautiful image for resilience. How do we bounce back after stress? Or how do we regain our shape after we've been pushed by the forces of life? Right? And there are a lot of forces pushing on us right now. And a lot of those forces fall under the category of survival stress, not for all, but for many. So people are coping with financial stress, health stress, or health of loved ones, separation from people they're close to, separation from people we are responsible for, like elders. We're coping with a lot of racist and xenophobic violence in the world right now. In New York, police brutality, personal safety. Many people are living in situations where their personal safety is at risk. there's the strange stress of sensory deprivation. So many people, as I see work with clients every day, people are reporting to me how the inability to be in life, and a lot of people living alone are really sensorily deprived. And that has a very big impact on people's ability to orient, to find and keep direction, to hold on to reality in a sense, right? So we can say that our resilience is being challenged, and our resilience quotient is related to our personal history, our trauma history, our present context and circumstances, our health. So if we say that we have 100x, and that represents our resilience, we can see that different factors might take up percentages of our resilience quotient. And we start to lose our sense of well-being, or our sense of our ability to cope. And in my practice, I help people restore resilience and find resilience through finding resource in the body, coming back to the body as a source of resilience and strength. See if I've missed anything that I want to say to you. So when we're under stress, we also might find it difficult or even impossible to process emotional experience. It's a natural evolutionary tendency that when we're under high stress, our ability to process emotional material goes down, because our survival does not depend on that. So the nervous system says, okay, put that to the side, cope with the stress, and we'll feel the emotions later. However, when the stressor is very prolonged, we cannot put off all of our emotional processing until later. And then we might get into emotional overwhelm because we can't quite take just this much. So working with the body can also help us feel more resource to process emotional experience that must be processed. I'll give just a very small personal example in sharing, is that during this time of in New York State, we call it pause, or staying at home and as much as possible, I had a big personal loss in my family. And of course, I can't do anything about it. I can't gather with people. My family can't gather with people. And so there's no way to grieve together. And I'm working with the people I work with in my professional practice, and this grief needs to be put kind of over there. And what I've noticed is that I can process about this much at a time. So I can feel it. I can feel it in the background. I can nod to it. I acknowledge it. I say, okay, I feel you. You're over there. And then once a week when I have my poetry group, somehow that's when it all comes into the foreground and I say, okay, now I can feel you. I can let you move. And then I say, thank you very much. Okay, so please go back over there until the next time that I have the right context to really feel into this emotion. Sometimes we can only do just this much. So, in the Buddhist tradition, the tradition says that the Buddha gave 84,000 practices for 84,000 different kinds of people. And what I love about this is that means that we cannot do it wrong. So all of us are doing what we're doing to take care of ourselves during this time. So let's include everything we're doing as though it was one of the 84,000 practices that the Buddha gave, that we're employing skillful means in the best way possible. Now, I'm going to offer you some practices that I work with tonight, and you'll see how they work for you. You might love them. You might go, that was okay. You might hate them. And all of that is valid. But they might point you in a direction, right? So the other beautiful thing about tradition is that the 84,000 practices is a finger pointing at the moon, right? The moon standing for enlightenment. So take whatever I offer tonight as a finger pointing at the moon, that you might get ideas about, oh, right, this is how I do that same thing. And that's great. That is enough. Okay, so we're gonna do a few little body practices together, and I'm gonna rearrange my space just the tiniest bit so that you can see more of me. And for this first practice, you can stay sitting, you can stand, you can start sitting and go to standing. Here. I'm going to start sitting. And so first, I just want you to take a moment to sense into your own body and notice whatever you notice. Notice sensations, notice areas where you feel well, notice areas that might feel painful or creaky. Notice what areas are most noticeable to you and what areas might be a little quiet. And you might notice how tired you are, or how slumped you feel, or how supported you feel. And you might just come up with a few words for yourself that name the experience you're having now. Okay. And now I'm going to make an invitation for you to just start to move gently, mindfully, and in your own way. So you might want to start small. You might want to start by stretching a little and just let yourself feel how your body wants to move. And it might be in ways you haven't moved just lately. Really taking your time and feeling it, letting it be mindful, letting it be the right size and shape for you, which means it could be tiny. And see over the course of these minutes that we move together. We're moving for ourselves, but we're also connected in this virtual group. See if you can find very small ways to move the quiet places in your body, the places that were a little harder to feel. And take another minute. And we can include our breath as a form of movement. And as you slowly bring your movement to a conclusion, just for now, check in again. Notice what might be different, what might be the same. Notice the parts of your body that were a little more quiet, a little harder to access. And notice what you sense there now. Notice what it's like to have more aliveness in that part of you. And I think you can unmute yourselves if anyone would like to say what might be different for them, what they notice, how that was. Anybody?
I'm noticing, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
That I'm feeling very calm here upper body, chest, breathing, so forth. It's taking a little bit longer to reach the other places, even with stretching. Like they haven't quite communicated clearly with each other. It feels
Okay.
closer after moving around. But
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Um, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I feel more fluid and more open in the areas that I was moving. Feels definitely more open. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, yes, we will continue. So now I'm just going to invite that to sense into your spine, right? So the spine is like a big tree that grows from our seat all the way up through out the top of our head. And there's a lot of resource in connecting with the spine. So I'm going to invite us all. So if you're sitting in a chair or lying down or standing up, you can stand and do this against a wall. You can also do it without anything, but it's nice to have the sensory feedback of a surface. So we're just going to take time to specifically move our spines. And you might want to think of your spine, and if you have back pain, move gently and move around the back pain, tenderly with the back pain. And you might want to think about how a snake might move. And you might want to feel what it feels like to move against the surface of your chair. I actually have arms on my chair and I'm using it to push against the back, the cushion, so I can really get my spine moving and feel different parts of it. I'm feeling my spine and I'm feeling the rest of my back as well. And if you want to move your neck and you want to protect your neck, just cup your hands around your neck so that your neck is very safe to move. You don't move it too much without support. And what's it like to flex the spine? What's it like to extend the spine? What's it like to twist gently within your range of motion? With ease. What's it like to make very small movements in the spine? Almost like micro movements. And then noticing the effect on your sense of presence, on your sense of you, after having moved your spine and sensing into your back space. Comments are welcome, not required.
I'm noticing that my energy is pretty scattered, and that in this second part, by being in touch with my spine more, that it's helped. I feel more centered and grounded.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so the next thing so I just want you to all sense your spine, sense your back space, the space behind you. And I'm going to invite an image. It could be one, it could be many, but to bring behind you a being, it could be a person in your life, it can be an ancestor, it can be a person who's passed, it can be a friend, an animal, but just invite a presence behind you. You can be as close or as far as feels good to you. But somebody who's backing you, somebody who supports you, somebody who has your back. And take a moment. It might be a little bit of trial and error. The first one may not be the most accurate. So play with that. And it can be a council. It can be a council of benefactors. Backing you up, supporting you. And see how you take in that support, how you receive that support just now. And if anyone would like to share their experience, please feel free.
I felt my shoulders drop. I just started to feel like really this relaxing presence around me.
Thank you.
I'm noticing how I'm feeling really able to take it in without going to a sad place, as I feel like I often do when I'm thinking about people who are backing me because I miss them.
Mm.
But it feels strong right now.
Mhm. Thank you. Anybody else?
I felt the support and backing of first a bear
Mm.
and then a tiger.
Mm.
And that felt very supportive and somehow very nurturing. So it felt very strengthening.
Thank you. Okay. It's meaningful to have backing. And when we may not have direct access in person, body to body, with the people who back us up, right, who we feel backed by, we can find ways. We can find ways to bring that into the foreground for ourselves. Okay, so we're gonna keep moving. Gonna move. You want to see the bottom of my body? Doesn't matter too much if you see the top. So now we're going to, oh, you can't see. Okay. The headless horsewoman. Okay, so now we're gonna wake up our legs and feet, and we're gonna do this by giving ourselves a kind of massage. So we're gonna grab our legs and just really give a nice pressure massage, taking your time, really grabbing that flesh. Really feeling your legs. It's like as we're, well, we often don't feel our bodies, let's face it, but there's something about being on the computer all day that's like, I don't need feet. So really find your feet, also thank them, give them a good hello. I'm wearing my Dharma socks tonight, styling for you. And then we'll go to the other side. Really getting those big leg muscles, all the flesh, and love the flesh. The flesh is lovable. You go all the way down to your feet and ankles. And see what it's like. You might now want to stand up and try out your new legs. Really sense how the ground feels under your feet. Sense the aliveness in your legs. You might feel free to walk around a little. Very mindful walking. It's like, oh yeah. Feel free to do any movement you want for your legs and feet now that they're a little bit more awake and alive. So now we have a spine, which is our internal support, self-support. We have backing, the support of benefactors, family, beings, animals. And now we've got our connection to the ground. And see what connection to the ground adds to your experience of yourself and of the world around you right now. And of course, I love to hear what people have to say, so please feel free to share.
I think I just feel more integrated
Hmm.
or connected all the way through than I had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks.
I feel good moving, and I feel more alive, more energized.
Yeah, thank you. I'm feeling very energized myself. I'm feeling like, whoa, oh boy. I'm feeling strong, like somehow getting my legs and feet in addition to my spine, really, I feel like, ooh, my power in a way.
I was feeling a lot of pain in my upper legs throughout the day, probably because of sitting, of course. And they feel much stronger now, just having physically touched them and paid attention and massaged them. It feels really good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is adding a little centering. So we have this kind of center, which is our literal center line. And then we have the center that's down here in our lower belly that if you've ever done any kind of Tai Chi or Qigong or martial arts, might be called the Hara or the Dantian. It's also physiologically where we have our physical balance point, and can also be very helpful to contact. So we're going to contact it in a simple way. We've already gotten a lot of things around our centers moving, but we'll start sitting, and then if you want to do any of these things standing, you can. But we're just going to start by kind of going back and forth on those bones, you know, those big old sharp bones, your sits bones. Just find your sits bones and kind of teeter-totter back and forth on them. I think of the sits bones as the feet of our pelvis. And since we are all sitting a lot of the time, sometimes we need to ground through our pelvis. And then go forward and back. So you notice that we can move our pelvis in all kinds of interesting ways, and just go ahead and do that. We're all fully clothed, so we're not going to be, and most of you can only be seen from here up, so it's okay to move, right? We don't move our pelvises in public, typically. It's taboo in our culture. All right, so we're really, even in the chair, starting to move around our center. So and we can just take that into a kind of we call it a cross crawl, where we're bringing the opposite knee and elbow together, crossing the center line of our bodies. Is that we use muscles that are way down in that center. And you can do that, any of you who would like to do that standing up. You can do it small. Don't challenge yourself too much on the balance. If it feels like too much, do your own dose, do it your own way. You can also just do some pelvic movement standing up. And any movement, you might want to hold on to something, but any movement that takes us out of balance or on one leg causes us to use the muscles in our center to hold on to our equilibrium. Oops. Cross crawl is a really easy way to do it. Even doing a little bit of a sit-up. I'm not encouraging like a ton of sit-ups, but can just engage those muscles. And then just take another moment to feel what that does. What does that bring into the equation for you?
Now it feels like everything's awake.
Okay. Somebody's on the chat. Let me just read it. I have to blind person here. Oh, thank you, Sean. Goodbye. Thank you for coming. Sasha, would you say that again?
I said that I everything feels awake now.
Okay.
Feel like it's really more integrated, and I kind of feel like, oh, now I have my attention focused. It's taken a while.
Yes. So may I use what you're sharing? May I comment on it? Would that be okay? Is that a
Certainly, yes, sorry, yes.
Yes, so we built layers, right? We built layers starting with very general movement, then going to the spine, then going to the grounding, then going to the centering. And we just, in a very simple way, in a few minutes, built a body container. And now we have a place for our attention to land. Right? So when we have a body container on board, it opens different possibilities for experience, for feeling and processing emotions, for shifting from a scattered or, in some cases, distressed or dissociated state into a more resource state. Because we can say that each one of these layers holds a resource in it. And we all can access these. We may access them through different modes, and that's okay. However we do it is good. However we do it is fine. And for many people, not for all, it offers a pathway into a state shift. And a state shift means I experience me and I differently, and therefore I experience the world around me differently. Does that make sense? Any comments, questions, differences? No?
I'm surprised and also delighted that that could happen so quickly. It's kind of amazing.
It is amazing. Well, here now you get to see, you know, the cheerleader excited me, right? I want to hold my countenance here. It can be amazing. In my practice, there are times when it's like magic. To use these skills to help somebody go through a shift that allows us to be in contact with more resource, more presence, but safe presence. Right, so here's one of the challenges of mindfulness practices, and I see this sometimes, is that people start getting mindful and then all of this material comes into the foreground, because that's what happens when we start to shed the light of awareness. It's like we've opened Fibber McGee's closet and everything's coming out. Well, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's too much. And a skillful meditation teacher can help with that. And body resources can help with that, because if we have body resources online, now I have more of my God-given resources to meet whatever it is that arises. Does that make sense? Or that's a perspective. I'm happy to hear anything about that. So I'm aware that we're close to the end of our time. It always goes so fast, but always. But I promised something that I did not deliver. I promised something about skillful mindlessness. So is it okay if I use our last few minutes to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when there's too much going on, sometimes we need to make a decision. So the skillful part of the mindlessness is I am going to make a decision to go mindless. Rather than just sort of staying out there, it's like, okay, I see that I have this choice. I have the authority, the inner authority to make this decision, and I am going to choose mindlessness. So what does mindlessness look like? Now, I'm not suggesting that we go to our worst possible habits, because many of those are not, well, are harming for us. But it's okay for me to make a decision to binge watch something, right? Because when there's too much on your plate and not enough resource to meet it, so I'll use myself as an example. So some weeks ago, when this family tragedy happened, sort of right at the moment we went into pause, right at the moment that everything was getting elevated here in New York, I was just like, I just can't. I cannot be present in a skillful way to everything that's going on and everything that's being demanded of me. I can be present for my role. I can be present for what I need to do to take care of myself right now. I can be present for contacting the people in my family who I really need to contact. And then that's it. Now I really need to, what are the things that I do? I'll pick a TV show and I'll watch a whole bunch of it in one day. I'll pick a series of books. Like, I like books that have series so that I can read one after the other. And I order them ahead of time so I'm never without one, you know? So I really, and then I was eating things I wouldn't normally eat. Okay, that's okay. You know, it's like, darling, that's okay. And this is what I was doing for myself, is darling, that's okay. That kind of tenderness, that it's okay to do something you wouldn't normally do, to binge watch something. I mean, I'm not a big social media person, but some people do it by connecting on social media. So how do you guys do it? What's your way of doing some kind of wasting of time as a way to get out a little bit, get out of yourself a little bit, get away?
Well, my way of getting out and getting away is to go out walking and notice all of the springtime blooms and leafing and all of the things that happen, things that are growing in the spring, all the green things.
So you're connecting with a bigger world.
With nature?
Yes, with nature, yes, the bigger world of nature. Anybody else?
I've certainly been reading a lot of books. Also, this, no, what is it? Inspector Rutledge, a bunch of these British series, which is not particularly terrific, but I have a stack of them to keep going after one is finished because it settles me in the evening. And I've also been trying to see what would make me happier in the home with more color, adding, trying to sew for the first time, maybe buying some fake branches online since I can't go out and get real ones, just to add some, in quotes, nature into the apartment. But it's play. It's really good.
Yeah. So play. Yeah. Connecting with something else. Anybody else?
Oh, I thought of something else. I have been baking, something that I hadn't been doing before, and finding new recipes to try out. And I find that very fulfilling and comforting and tastes good.
Mhm.
Yes. There are so many bakers baking in the world right now. Anybody else for something mindless?
I've been binge watching TV, also specifically the Great British Baking Show.
You've combined it, yeah.
I will never eat any of that food, but I think it's very funny, and I get very caught up in the competition and the personalities, and there's comedians, and I root for different people. And then when I'm walking, I listen to Desert Island Discs podcast, which is from BBC. What are the top 8 music tracks that you would take with you if you were stranded on a desert island? And they interview famous people like Tom Hanks, but they also talk to like the head of the British Horticultural Society, and it's really fun. And what would I take? Which Beatles song would I take? And so I'm alternating in my 2 British escapes.
Great. Stuff like that. Sheena, do you have anything you do?
Right now it's yoga and listening to jazz, specifically Nancy Wilson.
Oh, wow.
Oh, great.
You guys are also, of course, I'm working with people all day who are maybe a little more distressed. So you guys are all doing things that are actually, I would put in mindful categories. Nancy Wilson, yeah. Jazz, oh my God, yeah. Well, it is time to end, and I want to thank Sheena for being our host tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karen. I just have a couple of announcements, but thank you so much for sharing these practices with us. Definitely some practices I'll tap into as I'm working from home and need to just take a break. So really appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you so much, Karen.
Welcome.
Yeah. And then thank you everyone else for joining us tonight, for everyone who's joining live. You guys have been amazing, just engaging with Karen as she's doing these various practices with us. And thank you to everyone who watches the recording. Please join us on June 3rd for a Dharma talk by Kate Johnson. We'll have more information about her talk posted at Weekly Dharma Gathering in the next few days. And if you're not already a subscriber to Weekly Dharma Gathering, please join us. Right now we have a 7-day trial that you can find on our website, and please be sure to spread the word to friends and family. And if you are on social media, please make sure you follow us on Instagram at Weekly Dharma and on Facebook at Weekly Dharma Gathering. Thank you so much again, Karen. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody. This was very
Thank you very much, Karen.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, be well.
Thanks. Bye for now.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks.
You too.